Alright, so I'm going to show how to open up and disassemble this MSI GF63 thin 9SC. So first what you want to do is make sure the computer's off, and then remove this there's a factory seal sticker, so remove that. There's a little battery reset button under here, so if your computer's having some issue not turning on, sometimes pressing that button will help. Okay, so yeah, so first what you'll do is use a PH1 or a J1 bit and unscrew all the screws. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Again, remember there's one underneath the factory seal here. Okay, once you do that, turn the computer over on the side. So this side you actually don't want to pry the one with the headphone jacks. So what you want to do is start from this side, the side with the charge port. So you'll go between the little gap here. So as you can see where the case meets the top panel, and you'll just pry that out with your fingernails or a pry tool. Go slowly, don't use too much force, and then go around to the front side, do the same thing. Just go along the edge. So as you can see the edge here, hopefully you can see that in video, but you just go all the way along. Right, so as you can see, these two sides are popped out now. Now you got to go to the back. The back, you actually have to pry out this little the cover. There's a hinge cover here. So what you want to do is just get your fingernails in. So while you have the cover slightly pried, you can pull on it. Oh, normally it won't pop out that easily, but you can pull on it. So let me set it back there so you can see. So you can pull on it and then it'll make a gap. So if it doesn't come out easily like that, it'll make a gap here while you're pulling on the side here, and you can slide your fingernails or a pry tool underneath, and you can actually separate this top piece. Okay, so you just go all the way along just like this. Once you have this whole top piece separated, it'll actually come apart. Okay, so let's see here. So just lift up this top piece. Okay, there's still some clips holding it in place. Okay, just like that. So once you lift all those clips out, you can actually take this piece out. So here you can see all the clips, okay? And then make sure when you put it back that you put it at this angle, so this side goes in first, and then you rotate it and then snap the clips back in. Okay, so that's how you would remove that. All right, so flip it back over. Again, you do the headphone jack side last. So what you do, once you got all these two sides out and then that covers off, you can actually start prying up this side. So if pulling it doesn't work, you might have to use your fingernails or a pry tool and kind of pull this part up while you kind of pull it away. Okay, just like that. Once you got all these clips undone, you can lift it up at an angle, just like from this side, and then swing it over and the whole cover will come off just like that. Okay, so that's how you remove this cover. All right. Once you do that, you'll want to remove the battery and then disconnect the battery and then hold the power button. So this connector is held in very strongly. Normally I would use my fingernails and kind of just wiggle it out. It does go about halfway and then it kind of gets stuck there. So to remove the battery completely, what you want to do is get like a thin tool like this. You can try doing this with like a credit card or something, but basically you get your tool in there, let's see if you can see, and then just pry it up. And don't try and pry it too quickly, just do it slowly. You can start from this side, all right, and then just pry it slowly. Just don't put like pressure too quickly, just do it slowly. You'll hear the adhesive slowly peeling up, and then just keep going, all right, and eventually it'll pop up. If you can't get it to pop up just propping this side, you can get another tool and then use it to help you. Okay, so once you get that side up, just hold the battery up and then go to the other side. So you'll want to also pry up this side, same thing, just insert the tool and then just slowly pry it just like that. Once it comes up a little bit, adjust the tool so that you can get the tool further underneath the battery and slowly pry, and eventually it'll come up just like this. Okay, I peeled this one up already so it's a little bit easier, but that's how you do it. And then now that you have that, you can swing the battery over a little bit, and then you can grab the connectors for the battery, And while you're to remove the connector, what you want to do is make sure you're not holding anywhere that you can damage. These heat pipes are kind of fragile, so you don't want to put pressure on it. But I like to push on the bottom case here, so that way I can have some pressure pushing the case forward while I pull the battery. So while you're pushing forward, just wiggle the battery and it should pop out. So usually you just keep wiggling the connector back and forth slowly and it'll eventually pop out. Don't put too much force pulling on it or you can damage these. Okay. All right, so now the battery's done. We'll set that aside. So here you can see the speakers are right here. The connector for this speaker actually runs along under here. So it goes along this area underneath the keyboard cable and then back here to this connector, and this other speaker connects also to this connector. Very easy to remove. You just wiggle and pull it out. CMOS battery here. You got a 2.5-inch SATA slot, so it doesn't have a hard drive here right now, but you can add one. Okay. This can hold like a regular spinning drive or an SSD. Usually I don't recommend using the spinning drives anymore, especially since you carry these around. Just get an SSD. And then it has here an M.2 PCIe SSD, so it should work with the NVMe PCIe. And usually these slots are backwards compatible, so you can use the cheaper SATA ports, SATA SSDs, but they'll be a little bit slower. Okay. Then once you remove the battery, since it doesn't have the cover helping with the hinge, be careful opening the screen, but hold the power button down just to drain any excess power, and that will prevent anything from getting damaged or shorted out. Okay, so hold the power button a few seconds. All right, once that's done, just put it back down. All right, again, be gentle. Don't try and open and close it too quickly because the cover helps hold this in place. So usually when I open this, I like to make sure that the hinge screws are still tight, especially on older laptops. This one, I believe, is pretty new, so the screws are actually all tight. Okay, so then you got the LCD cable connector here. So it looks like we'll probably have to remove this so I can redo the thermal paste on these. So to remove this, you just flip this little latch here up, and then you can wiggle the cable up and back, and you can remove it. Okay, so now just route it around here. You can set it aside. So here's the RAM. They're only using one slot. It's 8 gigs PC4 2666V. Okay, so very standard DDR4 memory. Okay, so just put that back down. So this, they wanted to install another stick of RAM, so we'll install another one. Let's see here. Packaging is okay, difficult to open. Okay, so get the other stick of RAM. All right, just make sure the notch lines up, and then you can slot that in. Okay, at an angle like that, and then you just slot it down. All right, so we got everything here. There's the fan connector here. I'm surprised they only use one fan when it has like the CPU and GPU all in one. Usually that'll put off a lot of heat. I don't know, but I guess they do it to keep the size of the computer small. So then there's the wireless card, just like every other model. Undo the one screw, it'll come up at an angle. You can pop the tail of the antenna up and it'll come up at an angle, and then to put it back, you just push it back down straight over. Make sure that you don't have it off to the side at all, because if you try and push it down when it's not lined up, you can easily damage those. But that's pretty much it. It was actually a pretty simple build. To remove the fan, we'll take out these 3 screws. Looks like you might have to pull up the whole heatsink or the whole motherboard if you want to take out the fan, but we'll see. So let's undo the fan screws. All right, and then the fan connector, you just use your fingernail, get the sides of it, and just wiggle it slowly. Okay, just like this, and it'll pop up just like that. Okay, yeah, the fan is secured underneath the heatsink. So if you wanted to remove the fan, you have to take either the whole motherboard out or at least the heatsink. If you take the heatsink out, you have to redo the thermal paste, so just know that, okay? So we'll take out the fans here, and we'll take out the heatsink screws. Okay. Just like this. Okay, so there's 3 screws holding down the CPU heatsink, and then there's 4 screws holding down these. So they're actually numbered, so you know which ones to screw in first when redoing the thermal paste. Okay, so the thermal pads I'm not going to replace, but the thermal paste I will redo. Okay, so just lift it up carefully, just like this. So you can see there's the thermal pads here. They'll stay there. Since it's new, these thermal pads stay pretty well. If it's older, it's probably going to be all like more smushed and melty looking. Okay, so now that we got that, if the computer's kind of old or dusty, you can use an air blower and blow this out. It's a little bit dusty, so I'll probably clean it up a little. But that's pretty much as far as taking it apart goes. To clean this up, usually I'll use a paper towel and some rubbing alcohol. First, just use a dry one, wipe it up, make sure not to get it on these little components here of the processor, of the GPU. The CPU doesn't have any of that, so you can just wipe it all off. But yeah, for the GPU, wipe towards the center and try not to go out to here with the paste, because you can damage it. Okay, so yep, just clean that off with a dry paper towel and then wipe up the excess residue with rubbing alcohol, preferably like 91%, and then you can redo the paste. So let me see, I'll show how that's done so you know approximately how much to put. But basically get a paper, wipe off the excess, okay, just like this. So usually you don't want to wipe it off over the computer because you might drop the paste there. So just push that aside. All right, clean this up. All right, just like that. Be careful with the heatsink. You don't want to hold it so that too much weight is being held by the pipe because the pipe can bend easily. All right. So just clean all of that up. All right. All right, so now you got that all cleaned off. Clean off the ones from the CPU die. Okay. And the GPU. Okay. The thermal paste job they did on this wasn't too bad, actually. There is quite a bit of overflow here, but the GPU one, the overflow, it kind of stayed to the heatsink, so that wasn't too bad. Okay, so like I was saying, wipe towards the center so it doesn't go into the components on the side. If you do happen to get the heat sink or the thermal paste onto the sides, what you can do is clean it up with a toothbrush. Okay, you can see there's a little bit going over there. All right, so just get off all the excess. Usually what I like to do is hold the computer upside down so the little crumbled bits of thermal paste will actually fall off the board. So you can tip it over, blow the dust off. Okay, let me go get a brush and I'll clean that off. All right, so you just clean off all the little components with the brush. Okay, there we go, just like that. Make sure while you're working on stuff that you're grounded, touching a piece of metal. You don't want to get like static and then damage some components. All right, we'll clean off the CPU as well. All right. When the paste, the paste overheats, it actually becomes like really solid, like a plastic. This paste still seems pretty good, so yeah. Okay, so clean off all that residue. All right, so once you got all of that out, you'll want to use some rubbing alcohol to clean off any thin film of residue. Since this one's so new, you probably don't need to do that if you're working on a new one, but I do it anyways just to be safe. get rid of any. If you use rubbing alcohol, just put a little bit on a piece of paper, squeeze it, make sure that it doesn't drip everywhere because you don't want it to drip into the components. Okay, and then you just wipe it off. So much fluffy lint stuff in this computer. Okay, so do that. And then repeat the same thing with the heatsink. So as you can see, it's actually pretty clean, but sometimes if there's like a film, when you wipe it, it'll turn the napkin gray. So these parts usually, because it's more porous, it'll let some of the thermal paste out. So you can see it's turning gray. Okay, so you want to clean that out so that you get a better, thermal conductive layer so that they stick together without having any gaps. Okay, so get a little bit more rubbing alcohol on this piece of paper. Repeat the steps. Okay, and just keep doing that until the napkin comes out pretty clean. Okay. Okay, so you can see it's getting a little bit better. All right, and then keep going. Same thing, on that side, on that side. Okay, so as you can see now it's like a light gray. If you want, you can do it one more time just to be safe. Make sure you get everything off. Okay, just like that. Okay, and while you're wiping it, make sure you have your hand or you have it on a solid surface so that you don't put too much pressure on the pipes. Okay, all right, that's pretty good. We'll do one more just to be safe. Okay. All right. So now you can see the napkin's not really getting dark from that anymore. Go and clean this one off as well. All right, see, so it stays white, and then just dry it up with the dry part. Make sure that there's no lint on it when you go to redo the paste. Okay. All right, you can set the napkin aside. All right, so as far as pasting goes, what you want to do with these, you use very little. On desktop ones, you'll use like the size of pea, but on these, you'll use more closer to the size of a grain of rice. So what I'll do is I'll go here. All right, and then what you do is you squeeze it out just a little bit, just like that. Okay, and then you can spread it. Usually I'll keep the paste in the middle, so when you put the heatsink down, it'll actually compress and spread it very evenly and remove all the air gaps. So all the air gaps will be pushed to the outer sides. Okay, so this paste is very liquidy, but usually with the paste, you can get like a solid bead right on the center. Okay, I'll try my best to kind of move it around. So usually you want to form so that the peak is towards the middle of the blob. So when you put the CPU or the heatsink down, it'll actually spread it all for you completely evenly. Okay, so just like that. And then for the regular die, I'll just put it straight in the middle, just like this. Okay, and once you put the heatsink down, you don't want it to lift it off, because once you lift it off, it'll make all these peaks and valleys in it, and then when you push it back down, it's gonna trap all the air bubbles. So you want to make sure that the main blob is towards the center, so when you push it down, it spreads outwards and pushes the bubbles out as well. Okay, so just like that. It's actually a tiny bit more than the size of a rice, but that's how you would do it. Okay, then flip this over. So here you can see the label, they numbered it. So here, I don't know why it only has, it starts at 4, but there's a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there should be, oh, I see. They want you to put the fan screws in first. So there's 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so I guess on this, to keep it lined up, they want you to put the screws for the fan first. Okay. All right, so just line up all the screw holes before you push it down. Make sure, because you don't want the paste to go in crooked. Okay, so there you go. Okay, so just like it said, it wants you to put in these screws first. So take the screws. All right, number 1 is this one. Number 2 is this one. And then number 3 is this one. Okay, you can reconnect this. Usually what I do is I'll screw them in lightly first, just to make sure everything lines up. Okay, put the connector in. All right, we'll do the same thing with these. So now you got 1, 2, 3, so we'll go to number 4. So I twist it backwards, make sure it clicks so you know it's in the slot, and then twist it a little, and then 5. Okay, 6. Again, I'm just tightening them lightly. 7. And then we'll go 8 is here. Okay. 9 is here. And 10 is here. Okay, then you can tighten them all down. So tighten down number 1. Tighten down number 2. Tighten down number 3. All right, tighten down number 4. Tighten down number 5. Tighten down number 6. Number 7. Number 8. Number 9. Right, and number 10. And that's pretty much it. All you got to do is reassemble everything. I think I didn't mention, but there's the cables here. So the trackpad cable underneath the board, backlight cable underneath the board, and keyboard cable underneath the board. So to disconnect anything, you'd have to actually remove the whole logic board. Okay, but that's pretty much it. Hopefully this video helped. If it did, please like and subscribe because that'll help me. And thanks for watching. Bye.